welcome back to my movie reviews. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the recently released movie, Venom 2. Well, it's technically Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And well, this movie, we kind of got a bit of a, this movie kind of started way back 3 years ago when, in the Incredit Scene of the first Venom movie, when Eddie and Venom met Clevis Cassidy over in prison, and his words were,
"When I get out of here, and I will, there's gonna be carnage."
And well, 3 years later, and a lot of anticipation, it's safe to say it's time for Carnage. So this movie, starring Tom Hardy returning as Eddie Brock and Venom, Clevis Cassidy being portrayed by Woody Harrelson, and also Carnage. And yeah, and also many of the characters are returning from the previous movie. So this movie, it starts off back in 1996, way back when, back when Clevis Cassidy was younger. He was in St. Estie's School for Reformed Children, and he was very lonely. He was a lonely kid, but his one friend named Morgan Predict, she is being taken away from St. Estie's because she has the ability where she screams, it basically produces like a huge sonic boom, and yeah, and also, by the way, that person is Screech in Marvel. So yeah, she's taken away, but while she's being taken to a new facility, she screams and injures one of the guards, or one of the young police officers there. Sorry about that, I had to go take care of something briefly, but anyway, where was I? Okay, so Frances Barrison, she is being taken away from Clevis, from St. Estie's home of unwanted children, to the Ravencroft institution, which, for all of you X-Men fans, you know what that is. But midway on her way out there, she screams and injures rookie officer Patrick Mulligan, and also as a result, he shoots her in the eye, making her blind in one eye. But in the end, she is still taken away there and held captive and studied. So now we progress back to the present, or to the actual film. Clevis Cassidy, he is a serial killer being incarcerated, and he is on his way to dying, to getting the death penalty. Yet although he refuses to talk to anyone except reporter Eddie Brock. And yeah, and even at that, he still is not giving Eddie many clues as to any information as to where his possible victims are buried. But on one of these occasions, and also Patrick Mulligan, he is also in charge of Clevis Cassidy's his soon-to-be execution. And one day when Clevis asks Patrick Mulligan to send in Eddie Brock again, Eddie agrees, and also Venom agrees. So they go on over to Clevis Cassidy, and although at this point, at this point, once again, he doesn't give him any actual information. But while there, Venom, since he is inside Eddie, he notices on the wall some clues about possibly some things on this prison cell. Like where the bodies of his victims are. So Venom, when they get home, Eddie and Venom, they both kind of sum up where the hidden bodies are, and turns out Venom was right. So Venom is actually the one that finds out where the dead bodies are. So upon actually truly finding the victims, Clevis Cassidy is truly tried, and he is set to be executed very soon. And this really enrages him, since that was kind of like his one last thing that he had. And as the execution date draws near, things between Eddie and Venom kind of get a bit strained with their friendship, since, as we know, the only person that Venom can survive with is Eddie for any long period of time, since he is a parasitic organism symbiote. So, but Venom, he really wants to just go out and kind of eat people, or not eat people, but just like snack, as he quotes, snack on bad guys. Not just because he likes to do it, but also just because he needs more food to survive. But Eddie is not really wanting to do that, because he just wants to live a normal life. And but then again, Eddie, you have Venom, you have a symbiote, you have an alien symbiote in you, so you can't really get too normal. So anyway, one day, Anne, Eddie's previous ex-fiancée, she asks him to dinner, and Eddie is very excited since maybe she's going to come back to him, but it turns out she just asked him to dinner just to tell him that she is getting married to Dan, the doctor, that you saw back in the last movie. So yeah, Eddie is kind of sad when he first hears. It's usually not a good feeling, I would assume. But yeah, and upon kind of realizing, and upon truly seeing Eddie again up close, and kind of realizes, yeah, Venom, he's still alive and very much inside of Eddie, since at the end of the last movie she thought Venom died in the explosion. But so she basically just tells Venom to take care of Eddie, just to help him get through this hard time. So yeah, Venom and Eddie, they begin to spend even more time together. And Eddie's desires of wanting to truly just live a normal life again, possibly with Anne, really become even more clear, and also just how Venom and Eddie's how their desires are very much more different from each other. And it really kind of strains their friendship / relationship. But, so anyway, we get to, so eventually, Cletus' execution date comes near, and Clevis Cassidy, he actually sends a letter to Eddie to actually invite him to witness his execution. So Eddie immediately, at first, he doesn't really want to go, but he actually decides, Venom actually kind of convinces him to go to the actual execution, because it may make him feel better. But anyway, so the two of them go, they see Cletus as he's having his last meal, and Cletus and the two of them get into a bit of a argument between Cletus and Eddie, which actually ends up enraging Venom, which kind of makes Venom stick out and attack and make Eddie attack Cletus, which actually makes Cletus kind of bite Eddie, drawing a bit of his blood, and in which Cletus, he actually kind of licks Eddie's blood, since then again he is a serial killer, so I guess that's what they do.
It's mine. I have tasted blood before, and that is not.
So, but during the altercation, Eddie and Venom, after the altercation, Eddie and Venom, they head home, and as Eddie and Venom, and that whole thing, it really just, it was kind of like the last straw between Eddie and Venom, between Eddie's and Venom's relationship, because Venom is kind of the one, since Eddie was hoping to get any true final words or anything from Cletus, like, just to explain any more, or just, just to help Eddie's career, build Eddie's career once again. And the two of them, they get into a big argument. They kind of destroy Eddie's apartment, and Venom actually decides to leave Eddie. He leaves him and kind of just goes about San Francisco, jumping from person to person, and eventually gets into a rave. I know. Like, Venom enjoys a rave, I guess. So, meanwhile, while that is going on, Eddie's trying to, he's happy that Venom's no longer in his life. And meanwhile, Cletus, as he's getting set up to, he's just about to be executed, something goes wrong. Something appears within him. It is a red symbiote.
Soon come chaos.
That is really got a big attitude problem, and his name is Carnage. So the two of them, they break out. Eddie, although they break out of prison, and they are free. And both of them, they decide that they both Cletus and Carnage, they make a deal that if Carnage helps Cletus get Francis Barson out of Ravencroft Institute, then Cletus will help Carnage kill Venom and Eddie, since Venom is really the only thing that can defeat them or possibly kill them. So the two of them, they steal a car, and they cause all kinds of mayhem on the way to Ravencroft, and they actually eventually break out. Francis Barson and the three of them all reunite, but in the process, Francis, she screams, which as we all know is not good for Carnage, since the two things that symbiotes are weak to are fire and really high frequency noise. So Carnage basically says, if you do that again, I'm gonna bite your head off, literally. So yeah. So the three of them, they kind of formulate a plan. They all want to get revenge on the people that kind of put them back in their situations. Francis Barson wants to kill Patrick Mulligan, the cop that shot her in the eye. Cletus, he wants to kill Eddie for kind of ruining his suicidal, his serial killer-ish ways, and Carnage wants to kill Venom. So the three of them all become like, as a trio, they decide they go after the ones that they want to go after, if that makes sense. Meanwhile, all this is going on, Venom, he's kind of struggling to live in host after host without Eddie, since Eddie is the one person that, he's a perfect match for in terms of being able to live in for a long time. So eventually he goes to Mrs. Chen, and in the Asian woman from the last movie, and he inhabits her, he hangs out with her, or inhabits her, and meanwhile, with all the chaos and everything going on with Carnage, Cletus, and Barrison, Patrick Mulligan, he goes to Eddie, thinking that, maybe he has something to do with it, with, Cletus breaking out and everything, and he actually arrests him, thinking that he is somewhat responsible. Meanwhile, so Eddie calls Anne, as, trying to have her as his lawyer, and basically just, and Eddie also just tells Anne to find Venom, since the two of them together are the only ones that can truly stop him, that can stop Carnage and Cletus. So Anne goes out looking for Venom along with Dan, and eventually they run into Mrs. Chen. They get Venom back to Eddie, and after some very, very comical negotiations, Venom and Eddie agree to go live together again. Honestly, the two of them, they're like a married couple. It's really funny. So yeah. Meanwhile, while they are distracted, what they Boris and Clevis and Cassidy, they abduct Patrick Mulligan, and Barrison, she actually goes to Eddie and Venom's apartment and realizes that they're not there, but she actually takes the wedding ring that Eddie was going to give to Anne, and so that her and Cletus, they can get married, and in the process they also take Anne to take Anne to use along with Patrick Mulligan as bait in order to lure Venom and Eddie to go after them. So as I guess you could say trio is getting married at a cathedral while holding Anne and Patrick hostage, Venom and Eddie, they charge in, but upon seeing Carnage, Venom is at first very apprehensive to fight him because, well, he's a lot stronger technically Carnage is actually technically Venom's son, so he's kind of there, and he's a lot stronger than his dad. So yeah, through some very awkward negotiations, or some very awkward convincing, Eddie's able to convince Venom to fight Carnage, and
oh shit! Where you going? That is a red one!
You need to come out right now. I will let you eat everybody!
Promise!
I promise!
Oh yeah!
the fight at first, it's actually very similar to how the fight against Riot was in the last movie, except it's in a church, and as well there's also a church bell, which is it gives me very much vibes back to Spider-Man 3 with the whole Spider-Man, Peter Parker versus Eddie Brock and Venom thing back in the last movie. But eventually, Patrick Mulligan, he's able to shoot Frances Barrison, killing her. But as she's dying, she screams, and it separates both Carnage and Eddie Carnage, Eddie, and Venom from Clevis Cassidy, and the two begin to fight. Eddie and Venom are able to reform quickly, and just as Cletus and Carnage are about to reunite, Venom grabs Carnage and eats him. And apparently he does not taste that good. And as Cletus is, kind of saying how, even despite everything, he actually really enjoyed Cletus, the friendship him and Eddie kind of developed. Venom kind of eats him, bites his head off, in somewhat humorous fashion. I don't know. Yeah, so anyway, the police are all swarming, beginning to come around, and Dan and Venom and Eddie, they decide, they all gotta get out of there. So Venom and Eddie, they decide, in order to get away from the heat for a while, they decide to go on a vacation together. So the two of them, they relax on a beach somewhere, and that pretty much ends the movie. All in all, and well, alright, doesn't end it completely. Let's talk about the end credit scene. Honestly, the thing that probably most people were looking forward to in this movie. So anyway, the end credit scene, it's interesting. So it starts off with Eddie and Venom. They're in their hotel, relaxing, watching their favorite TV show, and Eddie brings up, Venom brings up how him and symbiotes, they despite them being basically parasitic blobs of goo, they are quite knowledgeable about many things. Things like multiple universes. And Venom says, like, how if he were to tell him anything, that Eddie's mind would be literally blown. And just as Eddie convinces Venom to tell him a little something, all of a sudden there's a big flash of light, and the room shakes, and they find themselves in a different room, in a unfamiliar room, and the show is different. They are watching instead of the TV show that they were previously watching, they were watching a news report about James Jonah Jameson reporting that Spider-Man's identity is none other than Peter Parker. Yeah. The exact ending to Spider-Man Far From Home. That is right. Venom and Eddie are in the MCU. They're in. And they're gonna be in Spider-Man No Way Home. That movie's gonna be stacked. It is absolutely insane that they're at, and I'm like, honestly, it's crazy just because, well, you know, honestly, if you would have told me like before, like months ago, that they would be in the MCU, I would not have believed you at all.
Are you serious?
Because it's insane, since, you know, Sony and Marvel, or should I say Disney, are not very close with the whole Spider-Man thing. And yeah, it's just insane, but then again, it is a multiverse. You know, Marvel has become a multiverse, so honestly, they can honestly do anything at this point.
Here's the thing. Multiverse theory's a bitch.
But I'm really excited to see, you know, what happens in that movie when it comes out around Christmas. But anyway, we're still on this movie. So honestly, this movie, it's, you know, if you enjoyed the first movie, you're going to enjoy this one. This movie, it's a bit better than the first one. You know, I enjoyed this movie, you know, but if you're thinking like it's very much like dark and like it's like almost like rated R, like if you're expecting like true like bloodshed and true, I guess you could say, carnage, then you're not gonna get it. Like every time like something like almost like R-rated happens, like, you know, it's almost like it's like the movie's trying to be R-rated, but then like just as something R-rated is about to happen, you know, like a little guy, he comes up, like a little PG-13 censor is like, no, this is PG-13. You know, it's like that. But all in all the actors did really good. You know, Clevis Cassidy, or Woody Harrelson, pretty much stole the show as Clevis Cassidy. He did amazing as him, and Tom Hardy did great as Eddie and Venom once again. And yeah, so honestly, all in all, I give this movie a B, a solid B. So that pretty much ends Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So let's talk about the next movie I'm gonna be reviewing. It's also about an extraterrestrials that have come to Earth, and it's in the MCU. But these guys and girls, they've been around for a long time, like something like 7,000 years. Here's the trailer.
We have loved these people since the day we arrived. When you love something, you protect it.
You can't protect any of them.
Yep, that's right. Next movie, The Eternals. I'm personally very excited to see The Eternals, just because the idea, it really backs up, you know, my personal beliefs that at some point in the ancient past, something or someone came to Earth and helped people become what we are today. You know, I'm really excited. Most people aren't that excited, but it's just because they have Spider-Man on the brain, that's why. So yeah, anyway guys, I'm going to video off right here. If you all enjoyed this video, give us a like, consider subscribing if you're not, and share this video. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.